Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Martinez, and this is the video project I'm going to do for this class. Here we go. Hello, everyone. This is the project LabWork Raspberry Pi Media Center, where I configure my Raspberry Pi to become a media center. So, let's get into the topics. The first part is downloading, getting familiar with Raspberry OS Lite by installing OS, connecting it to internet, configuring it, updating, upgrading OS, and configuring remote connection. Next part has me installing Apache, mounting a device and creating a directory, as well as running Apache on the directory, creating a daemon, as well as a static web page, and identify its URL. Last but not least, creating a dynamic page to identify it running, PHP running, executing scripts in the service, and identifying URL created. I will download and install SFPG and identify its URL, as well as upload 5 images of the steps taken to this lab and 5 more images using the remote PC using WinSPC and identify URL of both. So here we go. First part is installing the OS. I set up the Raspberry Pi OS Lite. I take out the microSD and put in the USB adapter. I install Raspberry Pi OS on my system, and in there I place the microSD as Raspberry Pi device, the Raspberry Pi 4 is the OS Lite, and the storage is master storage USB device. For my settings, I set my host name, my username and password, and my home network and SSH. Afterwards, it warns me 2 times. I click yes. After the image has finally been written on the microSD, I remove it, place it under Raspberry Pi 4 shown here. I turn on the Raspberry Pi. After logging in and entering my username and password, I type sudo raspi-config to open a config tool. I enter wireless LAN config, and then I type my SSID and password of my network. I type if config to test if my network is connected to my home network. It shows a valid IP address and valid IPv6 address on WLAN 0, so it does work. After checking my IP address, I type sudo raspi-config and select other settings. I select interface options. SSH enables SSH. Then I change my password, and last but not least, I change my time zone to central part of US. I then exited the raspi config and typed sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade to see if there was anything needed update. Fortunately, nothing needed an update. Then I configure remote connection using SSH on the command prompt by typing SSH username at hostname. Then I type my password to log in. To test it further, I typed command sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade on SSH to see if they worked, and they both worked as well. I decided to try changing my old password again, and yeah, it works as well, the command. Now let's move on to the next part. The next part is formatting the USB and installing Apache. I connected my USB to my laptop, entered File Explorer, and then formatted the USB. After that, I ejected and connected to my Raspberry Pi. On there, I typed command sudo apt update and install Apache 2y to install Apache on my OS Lite. I then typed lsblk to show my USB, then I created a mount point with sudo mkdir. Then I used the sudo mount command to mount the device. But to allow manager configuration to recognize changes I made, I type sudo systemctl daemon reload and set permissions with the change owner command. Next part, I create a directory to serve as a web root with the mkdir command. Then I configured Apache to use a directory by adding a config file with sudo nano etc conf file. In the Apache configuration, I changed document root to my web root directory. After saving and exiting the file, I restart Apache with the restart Apache command, obviously. I then created a system dservice file with sudo nano command and added the following content shown on screen. I then enabled the service start boot using sudo systemctl enable Apache 2. I then created an index.html file by first navigating to my web directory with the cd command, then typing nanoindex.html to create and edit the file. I typed the following stuff shown here on screen, then I saved the file and exited. Afterwards, I first found my Raspberry Pi's IP address to the host name, and this is needed for a website. Before I started going to the website, I had to add some more lines to the directive block in the conf file, in the default conf file. Afterwards, I saved and exited, then typed sudo systemctl restart Apache to apply new settings, and then I navigated to HTTP my IP address and it shows my static web page or message. Now for the final part, pre-project preparation. Before making a web page, I made sure PHP is installed with the sudo apt install php lib apache 2 command. Then I ran php-v to see which version I'm running. I have PHP version 8.2 installed. Since I'm running that version, I'll use the sudo php2 command to enable a module. Afterwards, I added more lines to my sudo nano default conf file, and then I saved changes and restart Apache to apply the changes in order to get PHP to work. Then I verified PHP running by going to my directory on my USB and typing nano phpinfo.php to create a file. After typing the code in the file, I save and exit the file. Then I access the page from our computer by typing my IP address phpinfo, as shown here. Then I download sfpg script by going to my web directory with the cd command. Then I type wget the zip file to get the file. Then I unzip the file. After unzipping it, I move the index file to my web directory with the mv command. Then I ensure necessary permissions with two commands sudo change owner and sudo change mod for my website. Afterwards, I access the sfpg page to going to my IP address /index.php on my desktop. It displays gallery interface. Now for uploading images, I downloaded WinSCP and then installed it on my system. After configuring it, I connected to my Raspberry Pi using SFTP by typing my IP address, hostname, username, and password. Then I click login to enter it via SFTP. Afterwards, I navigate to a web directory on my USB via here. To upload images, I drag drop images onto there, and then I refresh the gallery on the index.php, my IP address, HTTP, by refreshing it on another computer, and it shows 5 pictures. For the final part, I repeated the process on the WinSCP to upload 5 more pictures to my gallery. I then refresh my index.php gallery on the website, and now I'm going to show you the final result of the Raspberry Pi server. Here we go. But before I show you the server, I want to check out something else. I'm going to check SSH on my system to see if it works. It takes me here. To test if this works, I'm going to type ifconfig. So as it shows me here, I have IP address, the IP address shown here is the one used by my Raspberry Pi. So it does work. The next part I want to show is my Raspberry Pi web server. As you can see, it says, "Hello world, welcome to my Raspberry Pi web server." What I'm going to do next is I'm going to type php info/php to show the page. As you can see here, it shows the system, build date, build system, and server API for the system PHP is running on. My final part of my Raspberry Pi server, the gallery. As you can see, I've placed a ton of pictures in the gallery, so I'm going to show them all to you right now. Okay, here's this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. I also have like pictures of me working on the project. So here's this one. Here's me downloading WinSCP, and here's me entering Raspberry Pi via WinSCP. Here's me making the PHP file, me installing PHP. This is me adding more lines to allow the PHP to work. Here's me with in the PHP website. Here's me unzipping the SFPG. And yeah, I think that's everything. So after all of that instructions that I showed you, I finally got my server to work, and here it is. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Jose Martinez, and I will see you all later.